Hello. Okay. I think सब लोग सुन पा रहे हैं right now, right? सब सही है ना? हाँ, ठीक है. तो first of all, welcome everyone. This is first session जो 25 batch लेने वाला है about
English.
first session 25 batch will take about from the Sangyan team. Basically, a brief about Sangyan is we are a community in building right now from multiple ISAs, ISC, and almost every single research institute in India. We are trying to build a community that can help us to grow research, the field of research in India, right? So, in this community, we will do multiple sessions like this, talks and discussions, quizzes, and many thing more related to sciences, right? So today we will talk about the Oklo natural reactors. And you would be very interested in listening about this because this is the only natural reactor that we have currently on Earth. This is a miracle that has happened and the Mother Nature has created. So I'm going to pass it over to Yuvraaj now so he can start the presentation and talk more about this miracle that the nature has created about 2 billion years ago. Okay.
Hello everybody. I'm Yuvraaj. Okay, let me share the screen first. Okay, so as we know, as we have discussed, the topic for today's discussion is Oklo natural nuclear reactors, and let's begin. So the very first question that arises is, what is a nuclear reactor in itself? A nuclear reactor harnesses the power of splitting the atom, and in most reactors it converts it to energy that we use in our day-to-day life. In some reactors we make use of it to create isotopes for different purposes, such as treating certain types of cancer. There's an isotope called cobalt-60, which is used in treatment of the cancer of the prostate. And well, the picture on the screen right now is of Rawat Bhatta nuclear power station. This is in Rajasthan. Moving on, splitting the atom. We can think of a few isotopes of elements to be like crockery. You throw a stone at them, they'll break into two or more pieces. In our case, these crockery items are generally of uranium-235 and plutonium-239, and we'll be smashing them with a bat. That bat is our neutron, and I have a video here of pretty much showing what happens when we split an atom. This is a video by the slow-mo guys. The title smashing China plates by a baseball bat. So the bigger pieces you see, these in our case are
Yuvraaj is gay.
Are mostly barium and krypton. I'm not saying they're the only things that form, but most of the time it's them. There are other isotopes.
Yuvraaj is gay.
And the smaller shards which you see flying off are other neutrons which can hit other crockeries and maybe break them. And as you can see, generally the pieces are of barium and krypton, and the smaller shards are neutrons which can hit other plates. The thing is, most of the time these neutrons are traveling way too fast. and cannot really break crockery for some reason. I can talk about it later uh, in the discussion part, but for the time being, if a neutron is too fast, it cannot really break break other atoms easily. On the bottom right hand side, it's depicting what happens. A neutron gets absorbed by uranium 235, converting to uranium 236, which is extremely unstable and breaks apart into barium 141 and krypton 92, releasing 3 other neutrons which can hit other atoms of uranium 235. Now the question arises, if the neutrons are traveling way too fast, how do we slow them down? I present you moderators. Moderators are basically substances that slow down neutrons, making them more likely to get absorbed by atoms such as uranium 235. One of one such one such substance we use in our life every single day without exception. Any guesses? Anyone?
Graphite.
Water.
Graphite is a moderator, yes. But this one we use every single day.
Water.
Water. Water has this excellent property of slowing neutrons down. But it's not the only one. We have heavy water, which is made of heavy hydrogen. It has 1 proton and 1 neutron. That's another moderator, but we won't talk about it much. Then there is also graphite, which is used. Graphite is also a moderator, as a fellow student said. Now the thing is, what is only useful as a moderator when the concentration of uranium 235 in the fuel is roughly 3%. If it's below that, water tends to absorb too many neutrons and slows down the reaction, and the reactor shuts down. Today, any sample of natural uranium, except the ones we are going to talk about, has a uranium 235 concentration of 0.72%, and the rest of it is made of uranium 238 and uranium 234. There are other isotopes of uranium itself. I'll talk about uranium 238 later on, and uranium 234 doesn't concern us for the time being. Now, why do people hate nuclear energy? There's a So this is a question to everyone. What's the most common point against nuclear energy? Consider that I'm in a debate with any of you. I'm going pro-nuclear, and you people and you guys are standing against me. What's the first point you'll use against me in a debate?
Biological effects of the radioactivity.
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Biological effects on human body due to the radioactivity.
Okay, that's a really good point, but that's not the main point I'll be talking about. Anyone else?
The risk
Trauma of Chernobyl.
it going.
One at a time, please. Hello?
The risk of the reactor fail.
Okay, that is a fair point, but again, not the primary point people use against nuclear. Anyone else?
It's the trauma of Chernobyl power plant blast.
Okay, you're getting close, but not exactly there.
It's very susceptible to leaking. Like if it leaks, there is a huge loss, destruction.
Okay, if it leaks, what is released into the environment?
Radioactive waste.
Radioactive waste, nuclear waste, right? So what is nuclear waste? And why does it concern our discussion today? And to be honest, it is the reason why we know about Oklo today. It is what Oklo teaches us. Our main, the reason why we learn about Oklo is because it helps us understand nuclear waste, helps us battle nuclear waste in the long term. So, nuclear waste in this context is anything that is not useful. Like I mentioned an isotope of cobalt called cobalt 60, which is used in the treatment of prostate cancer. That is useful, but some isotopes are not at all useful. You cannot do with them, do anything good with them. So those isotopes come under nuclear waste. Now, how did we get to know there was a natural reactor, and how is nuclear waste related to it? So basically, the year was 1972, and this guy named Francis Perrin, he was working at a nuclear fuel processing plant. And when he was analyzing a sample, he found that there was an abnormally low quantity of uranium-235. In some of his samples, the concentration was as low as 0.44%, where it is supposed to be 0.72%. And in some areas, the concentration was higher than 0.72%. Now, why is this odd? Because the concentration of uranium-235 is supposed to be constant throughout the Earth, throughout the planet. And we also found that there were isotopes of neodymium. And these evidences that some areas have really low concentration of uranium-235, some have a higher concentration of uranium-235 than normal. And there are isotopes of neodymium that can only arise from nuclear fission. Suggested that there must have existed a natural reactor at the site at Oklo. But how did it exist? So, the Oklo deposits, the uranium ore there is encased in sandstone and conglomerate. Sandstone and conglomerate are extremely porous, and they had a really rich supply of groundwater. So the groundwater went through the sandstone and conglomerate and accumulated near the ore deposits. And roughly 2 billion years ago, this is something important. The concentration of uranium-235 was around 3%. That means that a good friend water can act as a moderator. It can slow neutrons down. It will increase the probability of a nuclear chain reaction to start. And when this chain reaction started, it actually ran in cycles for roughly 150,000 years. So the question arises, what's a chain reaction? Why did I mention a chain reaction? A chain reaction is something like a reel going viral. Suppose a good friend of mine has sent me a reel and I really liked it. I send it to 2 of my friends. They also really like it. They send it to 2 of their own friends, and so on. And soon the growth of the reel is exponential. This is a chain reaction, where one thing leads to another, which again leads to another thing, and so on. The reactor ran the Oklo site, the reactor at the Oklo site, ran for 3 hours, ran in 3-hour cycles, where in the first 30 minutes, there was fission occurring continuously. The chain reaction persisted for 30 minutes, and since the chain reaction persisted, there was a lot of energy being released, and water kept boiling. The water is being heated and eventually boils off. Now there is no water surrounding the ore deposit. Suddenly neutrons are not being slowed down, and nuclear fission suddenly starts to ramp down, and it eventually stops. And then it cools down for 2.5 hours, and that's 2 hours 30 minutes. As the rock cools down, it starts absorbing more water. it reaches the ore deposit layer, and the cycle starts again. Where it runs for 30 minutes, water gets boiled off, and then cools down for 2.5 hours. Give me a second, I'll drink some water. Moderator. So why did it stop? Why did it stop after 150,000 years? There are two reasons. First, the concentration of uranium 235. Actually, not only uranium 235, there were other fissile isotopes, that is, isotopes that can undergo fission. They can also contribute to the chain reaction. Their concentration started to decrease. And second reason is the buildup of poisons. What are poisons? What is a poison? Basically, a poison is that one hungry friend of yours that goes around the class and picks up everyone's lunch and eats something out of it. And other people get less of it, less of their own lunch. So some of these poisons are xenon 135 and samarium 149. These eat up the neutrons, leaving very less neutrons to sustain nuclear fission, nuclear chain reaction, and the reactor shuts down. But it takes a significant concentration of it. I'm not sure how much really, but as it builds up, it shuts down the reactor for good. There's no coming out of it. Eventually shuts down. This is also the reason why we have to keep replacing the fuel elements in our synthetic nuclear reactors, like the one I showed like the one at Rawat Bhatta, or any other nuclear site for that matter. Now here I have a comic of sorts where a poison, here xenon, is making the reactor run faster. The reactor needs to work harder to maintain the chain reaction, because most of the neutrons are being absorbed by xenon, so the reactor has to run hotter and faster. But eventually it has to stop, otherwise you would have a bomb on your hand, a Chernobyl. Now there's still one unanswered question, which I'll get to. But before that, there are two things we need to know. Some types of nuclear decay. There is an alpha decay, where a helium-4 nucleus is ejected out of the nucleus of the atom, and basically the mass of the remaining atom is reduced by 4 and the atomic number reduced by 2. Then we have beta minus decay. Here a neutron is converted into a proton, releasing a high energy electron. I'm not going into the depth of it, but this is the most basic I can take it, and because of lack of time, let's move on. Now the question is, why was there more uranium 235 in some areas? Well, there was only 3% uranium 235 2 billion years ago, and the rest was mostly uranium 238. Where did this extra uranium 235 come from? So basically what happens is, during fission, it's not uranium 235 that only absorbs neutrons. There are other atoms also surrounding it. There's uranium 238. There could be other things. There could be even water could be absorbing neutrons, becoming heavy water or radioactive water for that matter. So when uranium 238 absorbs a neutron, it converts to uranium 239, and roughly 24 minutes later, it undergoes beta minus decay, and becomes neptunium 239, which again undergoes beta decay, and within 2.356 days, it becomes plutonium 239. And which plutonium 239 in 24,110 years, at least half of it, gets converted to uranium-235 by alpha emission. That is, the mass of plutonium-239 gets reduced by 4, and the atomic number reduces by 2. So uranium-235 is hence formed, and that's the reason why some areas had a concentration of uranium-235 higher than expected. Did anyone notice something? There was plutonium. Plutonium-239, as I mentioned, is a fissile isotope, which was made from uranium-238. And hence uranium-238 is called fertile. That is, it can be converted or transmutated into a fissile isotope. In this case, plutonium-239. There are other elements also which are fertile. One example is thorium-232, and that's the basis of our of the nuclear program in India. We are trying to build thorium reactors. In that, we are converting thorium-232 into fissile uranium-233. Okay, let's move on. Fun fact that plutonium-239 powers most atomic bombs today. And it is believed that a research reactor in India named Dhruva, which was made in which was made in the 1970s, was producing plutonium for the Indian atomic weapons program. This data is from Wikipedia and the official site of BARC. The official site of BARC states that it was used in making radioisotopes. Well, plutonium-239 is a radioisotope, so who knows? And another thing is the bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki on 9th of August 1945, called Fat Man, also used a plutonium core. On the left-hand side, we have on the left-hand on the left-hand bomb. I'm sorry. Okay, on the left-hand side, it's a picture of the mushroom cloud at Nagasaki in Japan on 9th of August. It was quite a devastating day. Let's move on. The middle picture is the Oklo site. The man there is pointing at the area where the concentration of uranium-235 was found to be low. And the picture on the right-hand side is that of Dhruva, our largest research reactor. Well, I have a ball. Okay. What do we learn from Oklo? It is a close analog to our most common method of disposing nuclear waste. We generally deal with our nuclear waste by putting it in a deep geological repository. Basically, an area in a big desert where there is no groundwater, no risk of contamination. We go roughly several hundred meters deep, and then we dispose of our nuclear waste there. Actually, we keep them in dry casks. If you're interested, you can look it up on the internet. It's really quite interesting how they it's really quite interesting nuclear waste. Okay, so what are we learning from Oklo? What we are learning from Oklo, or what we understand from Oklo, is how to better store such nuclear wastes. These nuclear wastes cannot be leaked at all. It could risk the death of millions if unchecked. And that's what happened at Chernobyl, as one person said. And the thing is, Oklo has been storing the waste for nearly 2 billion years without any sort of migration of the waste. That's what's interesting. We cannot create such conditions. We cannot replicate such conditions in our labs where something is left idle for 2 billion years. So Oklo is really important in such matter. And that's about it. I would like to thank Professor Rahul Sharma, who has guided me in making this presentation, and the Sangyan community for giving this opportunity to me to conduct a student discussion, and especially Srirang Bhaiya. And I would also like to thank the Sangyan content team, the Sangyan media team, and the Sangyan admin team for assisting me in this. These are the references. I will share these in the group. You guys can check it out from there. Thank you. Any questions? Is there any questions? Absolutely anything. Okay, let's summarize. So what we learned, what we learned from this was how the sites at Oklo underwent nuclear chain reactions and what are we learning from them. And we also learned a few facts here and there about nuclear studies in general. We learned that there is cobalt-60, which is being used in the treatment of prostate cancer, uranium-235 and uranium-239, uranium-233. These are all fissile isotopes. Uranium-235 is used in reactors, and plutonium-239 is used in atomic bombs most of the time. And we also learned about, and I also talked about our Indian nuclear energy program, where we convert thorium-232 into anything useful. So if possible, can any of you guys take 5 minutes and tell what you learned from it, or if there is any question you can ask me. I'll be happy to answer them.
Actually, I have a question about the concentration of uranium-235.
Yes, go on.
So, like, currently all around the world, the concentration of uranium-235 in a natural uranium deposit should be 0.72%, or should be uniform all throughout the world. But like
Exactly.
2 billion years ago, it was 3%. So, like, why is it different from before and now?
Okay, good question. I didn't really talk about it, but the thing about uranium and almost any element I spoke about today is that they are all radioactive. And you probably have studied this in 11th or 12th, and I don't really remember. We were taught about first order reactions, but it's fine even if people don't know about it. The thing is, as time passes on, some atoms of uranium decay, some faster than other, most. And here comes the concept of half-lives. Here in this slide, here I had written uranium-239 converts to neptunium-239 in roughly 24 minutes. Actually, it's not the entire thing converts into neptunium. It's only half of it. half of the uranium-239 converts to neptunium-239 in 24 minutes. And then another 24 minutes later, the leftover uranium-239 half of the leftover uranium-239 converts into neptunium-239, and so on. And it's not that all isotopes have the same half-lives. That's the time it takes for half of the atoms to decay away into whatever the other isotope is. Uranium-238 has a comparison uranium-235, and so it decays away slowly, and that allows that the difference in that half-life uh, really brings the change. That is the reason why there was a concentration of the concentration of uranium-235 was 3% 2 billion years ago. Did I make it clear enough, or do I need to
Yes,
explain
it's
it?
clear.
Okay. Any other question?
Hello.
Hello?
Why did the nuclear waste did not move out of this site? Hello.
Exactly. So that is what we are trying to study at Oklo. Why did it not migrate? And that's what makes Oklo interesting. The nuclear waste didn't migrate much, and that's and hence it was contained in one small area, which in one small area, and it couldn't really contaminate anything else. It couldn't contaminate the groundwater. It couldn't contaminate the surrounding environment or anything. That's what we are trying to study at Oklo. Any other questions?
Hello.
Hello?
I want to ask, can you go over that how water also starts the nuclear reaction, helps the nuclear reaction, but also is stopping the nuclear reaction in the cycle of 3 hours or 2.5 hours, whatever that was.
Okay. So, as I said, water is a moderator. Its job is to slow neutrons down. And its job is to slow neutrons down. So, when the water had seeped up at the ore deposit level, there's a type of radioactive decay called neutron emission. So, any stray neutron from the natural process could initiate a nuclear chain reaction, and that would have been sustained because water would have moderated it. And as soon as the water got boiled away, there was no slowing the neutrons down, so it became highly unlikely that the neutrons would hit other atoms of uranium-235, and that drop in the neutrons hitting other atoms of uranium-235 led to the reactor shutting down for 2.5 hours by the time the surrounding rocks cool down, and then they soaked up water again, and the cycle continued for 150,000 years. Any question? Any other question? We have 10 minutes. Um, we can continue our discussion. Like, if there are any questions, I can answer them. Go on. Why did the reactor form in the first place? Okay, I can give a complicated answer, but I would like to keep it simple. So, at the time, the geological conditions were such that uh, uranium clumped up in sandstone and conglomerate. Sandstone and conglomerate, which are, as I said, they are extremely porous. They can absorb water. It was a miracle of sorts. So that, okay, it was a miracle of sorts. And when and the fact that it was connected to the groundwater also was highly unlikely, but it existed. And the water, as it reached the level of the uranium of the deposits are actually 5 to 8 meters thick. They were 5 to 8 meters thick, and the water reached that level. It submerged the entire thing, and any an element and any radioactive element which can undergo a neutron emission, a type of nuclear radioactive decay, can initiate, could have initiated a nuclear chain reaction. So it was all on chance, and there is a lot of element or lot of isotopes that can undergo neutron emission. Did I explain neutron emission? I don't think so. So basically, a neutron emission is when the atom literally ejects a neutron. That's about it. And yeah, any strain neutron could have started a chain reaction, and that's what happened. Did I make it clear, or do I need to explain it better? I'm sorry. Okay. Any other question? We have 10 minutes. We can take our. Oh, yeah. This question I had on my mind. We know about Oklo. Actually, there are 16 sites at Oklo and one roughly 20 kilometers away from it. So these 17 sites in total all run nuclear chain reactions in them. Now, could it be that there are other sites like this where a nuclear chain reaction has occurred, or could it be the only one? Does anyone want to share any thoughts on that? Like absolutely anyone. Okay. So if Oklo was a friend, what personality would it have, according to you? Anyone, like absolutely anyone. Anyone can answer it. Like I would say that Oklo, to me, Oklo would be that one friend who, out of the blue, starts behaving erratically. That is, they get overhyped for the absolutely no reason, and then suddenly cool down, almost as if they'll say anything extremely random. They might, out of the blue, say water, and then they'll not talk about it again. It would be that friend of mine. Does, according to you people, what kind of personality would it have? Hmm? Interesting. That's almost exactly what Oklo is. And go, and any other person can also share. I would suggest everyone to
I
share
think
it.
Oklo would be that.
Oklo would be.
I would say Oklo is that
Ok-
friend who randomly studies all night and tops and then disappears and just has fun again. And then again, when the time comes, he studies all night and disappears again.
That one friend before the midsem exams. Okay. Any other anyone else?
I think Oklo would be that mysterious friend of mine who has some secrets and some really cool personality that he doesn't want to let out. And we only get
Okay.
to see that part of his personality once in a while when like really excited or something.
Okay. Okay. Again, a really interesting one. Anyone else? Like anyone, does anyone think differently about Oklo than any of the people who spoke about it right now? Anyone? I won't judge. Well, if there's no more questions, we can end this session. But before that, I would like to invite my friend Ayush. He'll talk a little bit about the scientific community, which is the student community, which is organizing such discussions.
Okay, so hope you all enjoyed the session, and this is going to be invitation for you all, whoever's in this meeting right now, to join Sangyan and be a part of the community that built this, the content team. There are currently we have 4 teams right now: the content team, the media team, the technical team, and the social relations team. The social relations team, the job is to connect with multiple people from our batch, maybe that may be seniors or even professors too, from multiple colleges, so they can contribute towards these sessions and we can have more information or people who can give more talks in more detail. And for the technical team, that their job is to manage the data that is going through that is going through all these meetings and the people who are working behind these meetings. And there is the content team who prepares the content, who will transcribe this entire meeting and then summarize it, and many other things for posting on Instagram or for LinkedIn, etc. And the media team, which is the most active right now because we are doing multiple posts a day, and also we will post some memes of this session as well, and Yuvraaj will be the main focus. So yeah,
No.
so yeah, join us. It will be a lot of fun, and also follow Sangyan on Instagram. It will be good if you follow more, and we can
Sangyan,
reach out
okay.
to more and more people. Just search Sangyan, and we'll most probably find it. Okay. Yeah. Also about this topic, if you have more discussions or more questions, if we can discuss on WhatsApp as well. We are open to discussions and suggestions on what the next session will be. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending this.
Thank you for joining.
You can give reviews if you want, but be nice. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.